up by this part of our, thank you, Kimberly, for pushing the record button. So anyway, I hope you're not too burned out to give this your full attention tonight. Thanks so much. Looking at the agenda, I'm declaring a quorum. We will proceed without Max, who will be joining us shortly. First on our agenda is approval of the minutes of our last meeting, which was, looking at it, on Thursday, November 16th at 6:30. This was the second part of our retreat. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you for a second. Any objections to approving the minutes? There being no objections, we'll approve them. Moving to public comment, I want to invite a public comment, and it's a good news public comment. Eileen, would you share with us?
I will, and I actually also have a public comment in addition to this.
Please, yeah.
But the exciting news is that YWCA Evanston, excuse me, Evanston North Shore was named one of the recipients of money from the Mackenzie Scott donations that have been in the news in this past week. And YWCA Evanston North Shore is receiving $9 million of unsolicited funds.
It's just
for
awesome.
Because of our track record with empowering women, equity work, and her criteria was fascinating to me, and she gave money to several YWCAs around the country, us being one of them, and we're ecstatic, of course. And what it does is it assures some, that there'll be work done that allows what we're doing now to be sustainable and also obviously to grow. But it's very exciting. And I've thought of another place that got some of that money, and it's Meals on Wheels of Northern Illinois got money as well. So very much food. She's really about food insecurity as well. That was another one of her passion, one of the areas that she really targeted. So that's, lovely to get that news. And also I just want to say, because I'm not sure, thank you. When we heard yesterday,
yesterday,
there were tears. Karen has known for a couple of weeks, but it was able to be made public to the whole staff yesterday. And
there's an article in the Times.
I was in the middle of a meeting, but I was reading it, in my computer, and I was like, I had to go off screen because I was like, oh my God. So anyway. But then my other public comment, the one that I really came to make, is YWCA will be launching some programming around the National Day of Racial Healing in January. We'll be hosting a panel, and you'll get a flyer about this, which is being made sometime in the next day or so. There'll be a panel on January 19th on reparations and racial healing with Robin Rue Simmons will be one of the panelists, and Monica Haslip, a woman who runs Black Pearl in Bronzeville, but has been part of the whole work with the Woods Fund and TRHT. She is my mentor in this work and someone I admire greatly. And we haven't locked in the moderator yet, but we assume it's another wonderful person who's located in Evanston. So that'll be a free program at over lunch hour, and we'll send out the Zoom information for that. And that will also then be when we're announcing or reminding people for the last time to register for. We will start a cycle of racial healing circles the last week in January, and they'll be set up to be, people will sign up to participate in 2 circles in affinity groups, and then a 3rd circle that will be mixture of people who've been in various affinity group circles. And we're excited and just decided we're going forward, and then we'll see how it grows or goes from there. If the response is strong, then we'll have a training in February to train up more racial healing circle leaders out of Evanston. But we decided we had been going in the other order, and we decided this was the smarter way to do it. Get started, see what the interest level is, and hopefully it will lead to some continued ongoing process of being in conversation with each other and using the opportunity to share stories as a tool toward healing. And if there's not an aspect of it that is about transforming our community, then it shouldn't continue, is sort of how we're feeling. So we're hoping that that third session where people are meeting together will be sort of an action and advocacy kind of conversation, and then continue from there. We can't predict what'll happen, but we're going to make that opportunity available. So you'll all get a copy of the flyer and information to share freely, and we're working through the churches in Evanston to really publicize this so that we get a broader base of folks from all across the community.
Nobody's going to comment on public comment, but if you can send me some information, tomorrow morning we have our reparations meeting.
Right.
I would like to make if you're not able to make a 9:15 a.m. meeting, I have no problem passing that communication on.
Great. I will send stuff to you, Kimberly. I'm going to be there for a part of that, but tomorrow morning is when our equity team at YWCA meets to find out implications for our programming from the earlier announcement of the new money that has come into our life. But I will send that to you.
And we'll make sure we promote it at the city as well, and whatever avenues that we have available, we'll make sure we get that out as well.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kimberly, and congratulations, Eileen, to you and all your colleagues. Max, you joined us. I don't know if you caught the good news, is that the YWCA is the beneficiary of $9 million from Mackenzie Scott's generosity. $9 million that fell out of the sky.
Right.
It's amazing. Yeah, congratulations. Yeah. Our staff benefited today from your amazing resources and training. So thanks for all you do. Yeah. Thank you.
Kind of makes the Healing Illinois funding, $30,000, look like peanuts, but that counts too.
No, so that was huge.
Counts too. Yeah.
Yes.
So, all right, wonderful. Well, Max, welcome. Thanks for joining us. We're all here now. Any other public comment on this one? I'm going to, great, thank you. I'm going to play around with the agenda tonight. We're going to move up in the agenda to the next item, for consideration, and that's approval of our 2021 meeting schedule so that we can get that out of the way. Kimberly had just emailed to you, by the way, let me find an email with the document attaching the meeting schedule, the packet, the PDF, which includes the meeting schedule. Let me know if you can't find it, otherwise I can share my screen. If you want to look at, oh, Kimberly, like magic, has shared her screen. Thank you. So
yeah, we're sorry about that. We're transitioning to a new system, and so there's some kinks that we have to just make sure we address, because we can see it, but unfortunately you guys weren't able to. So apologies.
And Max, looking at the schedule reminds me to apologize to you too for scheduling this meeting tonight in conflict with the last night of Hanukkah. So I'm sorry about that. And I'm sorry if this takes you away from your family. Thank you. No keeping in mind, if we approve this proposed meeting schedule, we can also during the year adjust a date to, because we can't all look at all of our calendars right now, but we can adjust some of these dates to accommodate other things. So is there a motion to approve the proposed 2021 meeting dates for the Equity Empowerment Commission?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All approved? Ayes or nays?
Aye.
Aye. That sounds like it was unanimous. Do you need a roll call on this, Kimberly? To comply with the governor's thing on Open Meetings Act
under do roll calls, but yeah, you're right. I need to do what I'm supposed to do as the staff. Okay. Alejandra?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Kimberly?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Max?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
And Alderman Ms. Holmes, I just can't say your first name.
You're on mute.
I'm abstaining.
All right. Approved our meeting schedule for 2021. Thank you all. Next, looking at our agenda, I think it makes more sense for us to take a look at the draft mission statement that's under discussion before we go into details about the boards and commissions project. Any objection to tackling first the mission statement?
No, that's a good idea.
Right. With big thanks to Alejandra and to Kimberly for getting us to this point where we have a draft statement that we can look at and respond to, and as you think, revise it or take it as presented. So I'll give you some time, to 30 seconds, to read through it. And Alejandra, do you want to lead this discussion?
Well, yeah, let me just provide some quick context, right?
Yeah, great, thank you.
Yeah, again, this is one of the activities and things that we felt we wanted to do moving forward to help us really clarify our purpose. And a mission statement describes the work of the entity, who we do it for, and the benefits. So again, this helps drive the work of our commission, and it will describe what we'll do and what's the core of our work. And so that was the context and the goal of crafting this language. Would love to hear from you all, get some feedback.
Thank you. Thoughts?
Or was someone gonna say something?
You.
Yes.
Me? Okay. I generally like it. I think I'm struggling a little with the first sentence. I guess I'm just not sure like what that means, like a shared recognition, language, and practice around structural racism. I know when we had talked about this in our breakout, like we were talking about words, you know, like kind of like dismantle, more like action verbs. And I guess I'm just wondering, what's the thought behind like developing a shared recognition, language, and practice?
Sure, and I'm happy. This is the language that I came up with. For me, I felt it was important to, one, have a shared recognition. I just want to make it very clear to, to both residents, everybody who lives or works here, that we recognize that structural racism exists. We want to help develop a shared language about how we talk about it, and come up with a shared practice about how we tackle this. And so again, I don't want there to be any doubt that we don't recognize that structural racism is actually a thing, something that we historically have struggled with, that we also have passed policies and practices that are tied to structural racism, and that we are, and if you see the second half of this sentence, or maybe it's because there's so many parts of this sentence, I love to say too many things in one sentence, that we are on a collective journey to eliminate structural racism, right? I also wanted to recognize that we are all on this journey. And so for me, that journey means we recognize it, we call it out, right? We create shared language to name it, and then we create practices to eliminate it. Those were my thoughts in crafting this very long sentence. I am more than open to edits. I know Jane did the best she could to be able to make this a little bit more clear. But does that make sense, Kimberly?
Yeah, it does. I think maybe, I don't have an answer right now. I'd have to think about it, but maybe breaking that into 2 sentences might be a start. The first sentence around sort of affirming or, you know, stating very plainly that we recognize, you know, develop a shared recognition, you know, on Evanston's, I forget what you were saying, but basically like name it, you know, say that it exists, right? I think that is very important because I think there are people that don't believe that it's a thing. Right. And then maybe the second sentence is more around, you know, on this collective journey to eliminate, you know, or I personally like the word dismantle. I think it's a bit more, when I think of a structure, I think of dismantling a structure rather than eliminating a structure. But I guess the short answer is I like your thoughts. I think I would just start with trying to put it in 2 sentences.
Got it.
Yep. Shall we try to do that now?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, let's do the rewording in person.
Okay.
It's so painful.
We wasted too much time.
And Dolores.
In the second sentence, to ensure uniform racial equity, I thought we were doing all kinds of equity, not just racial equity. So I would like for it to say including racial equity rather than, I know this is our focus right now, okay, but we're doing all kinds of, it's part of my big hang up with all of this, but I think that would help me a little bit with this, with the mission, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, Carla, do you want to respond to that? If not, I can.
No, so I wasn't here when this committee originally decided, but I could swear I asked that clarifying question like 2 meetings ago, and I was clearly told that the decision, so it's before I was in but the decision was that we were going to focus on racial equity. So
and we are. That's not eliminate. I'm not talking about eliminating. And you're absolutely right. We are focusing on racial equity, but that's not our whole mission. That's the beginning. That's the first step that we felt needed to be taken.
And I guess what other pieces are we seeing in our near future, or let's just say 5-year future of managing in equity? Are we talking about LGBTQ equity? Are we talking about women's, like what other pieces are you afraid that we will leave out? Because I'm open to all sorts of equity. I'm just trying to understand exactly what we think is missing.
And I think for this mission statement, we also had in mind this being a 3-year mission statement. Nothing longer than that.
So I think putting that in perspective, do we think we could get beyond racial equity in 3 years?
In 3 years?
Or 5
I don't
years?
know.
Right? Like,
I don't think we'll ever get beyond it, but that's a whole nother hang up of mine.
True.
Actually, this I had in here 3-year, and Kimberly had recommended, not Kimberly Walton, Kimberly
Richardson.
Yeah, talked about then we should, you know, come back in 3 years, look at our progress, and then update this. But to Dolores's point, you know, for me, racial equity is both a process and a strategy. You know, my understanding of why we center race is that if you center those most marginalized and impacted by structural racism, then everything else falls in line. And this is, I think, this has been part of my journey. And I think it's a journey for a lot of folks who maybe have discomfort for calling for racial equity. Honestly, you know, and as a privileged white Latina, right, who is a citizen and fully bilingual, I put my faith in centering race, because in the US context, it is, you know, Black Americans who have been impacted directly by structural racism. And so I know that when there is equity for the Black community, then there is equity for everyone else. And so we've had these conversations, and I wonder if maybe there's just a disconnect or a misunderstanding, because when we say racial equity, that means that we are also, everybody else falls within that equity. And I'm not sure if I'm not explaining myself right, but I don't want to get back into like having to create a list of everybody, because that's how we get stuck, in listing everybody out and not centering those most impacted by structural racism. And that, again, that's why we need a shared language, so that we're all speaking, and the language that we use, we're all comfortable with.
And as I would say, as somebody who lives a very intersectional existence, as a Black woman, a queer woman, an immigrant woman, I'll tell you, if we want to talk about other equities, you want to talk about LGBT, my focus is still first and foremost Black trans people, period, right? Like, we want to talk about immigrants, we're talking about immigrants of color, period, right? So like, race will always be the most marginalized denomination, regardless of whatever other, identity you have. I'm very proud of my LGBTQ identity. I'm very proud of my immigrant identity. But at the end of the day, like a Scandinavian immigrant's not having the same experiences a Latinx immigrant of color is, or a Black immigrant is. So I think ultimately it still does boil down to race, even if we're looking at other areas.
I wonder about the word ensure. I guess it's a good word, but how can we really ensure? Like, don't we, wouldn't we be taking this to the city and sort of like asking them to put this in practice? To me, ensure, I don't know, I just wonder if it's too much accountability. Like, what if the city doesn't do it? Right. I don't know.
I agree. Opposite. I had an opposite reaction almost to that sentence. But in the sense that, like, so I just got done with writing like a 15-page paper and a 20-page paper, and my head, like, I remember those sentences where I was like, well, I don't really have enough proof to say for sure it makes an impact. So I'm like, well, it could shed light on the possibility that it may help. Right? It's one of those sentences, right? Where I was like, I don't have enough to cover my ass here. So I'm going to be like, well, and I'm going to put all these words to clarify that I'm not, that's what that sentence is. And I'm not making fun of the sentence, like the person who formed the sentence, right? But I think we really need to, I think part of that is realizing we don't have any power, right? We don't have any. So it's like, we will ensure that they try, that they, I'm touched by the training is mentioned a lot here, and I'm also interested in when that became our focus, because what skill set do we as a collective have to sort of be somehow either selecting training or providing training? So those are my two.
Do we want to fall back on the word support there instead of ensure? Is that just too weak of a statement? No?
I like promote.
Promote?
Oh, I like promote. I was thinking require, but I think that's probably too strong.
Wouldn't we love that?
I would love to require
it. How that happens.
I mean, there has to be an accountability measurement, and ensure was the first word that came to,
But aren't we accountable for developing the thing, right? And training people. Training people. Or, just, I guess, where does our accountability end is my question.
And has the city committed to this training? Because I could sit here and say all day, I will ensure that we provide, that we assist, that we support, all of that. But I think there is hesitance in forming that sentence. Anybody forming that sentence, as I said, I'm not making fun of the person who made the sentence, because we don't have any clarity that we are actually aiding a willing body, for lack of a better word. So we're like, how much can we ensure? How much can we support?
Well, we can agitate, and we can shame, and we can promote, and we can show up at council meetings and write to each council member. I'm particularly focusing on the council because there are several members of this council who have not participated in any equity training to speak of. So I think that the council created this commission to come back and inform it of what needed to be done. So I think that we could be a commission that says, look, you know, this is essential. We figured this out. This is essential, and you all each have to participate in this and put it in your rules and require it as part of an annual training of some sort.
So we can advance the practice evaluation of progress. We can't require it.
No,
because that's right, that the requiring comes from the city council as a body, but we can certainly help the city support and advance its development of a tool.
As Melissa said, I think we can call the city council out because they did develop this committee and to do this. And the reason why I'm going to come back again and say, the only reason why I want to have other things there is because there are other areas, and we did lose people because we decided to focus on race because they really did want to focus on some other issues. But I don't want anybody to ever think that we forgot those other areas that need to be looked at. I'm number one for wanting to focus on race, believe me. But I think that we have an obligation as a commission to remember why we were formed. So that's why I said that.
Going back then,
whether the limit is 1 year or 10 years, I could care less. I still think that we have to keep for me anyway, the original concept of the committee.
How about if that second sentence said something such as, we collaborate to ensure uniform equity training that leads with race, because I think that's what our agreement was, is to lead with race and addresses other inequities. Does something like that work?
Yeah, I just think that we have an obligation to remember that that's a part of what the mission is. That's all I'm saying.
What these other things are? I'm sorry, something's being spoken about and I don't know what it is. What are the other things that were left, or what was in the original charter that is no longer, or is left out now that we're focusing on race?
Well, there were members of the original commission who were advocates for disabilities and
there's environmental. There's like there's
everything you can think of. Yeah.
Every kind of ism you can think of, right? Yeah. We don't want ableism. We don't want sexism. We don't want, environmental, climate injustice. Like, the list of injustices could go on ad infinitum. But I think I really appreciate, Dolores, what you're saying about this may be our focus and what we're leading with, but I don't think I don't want to speak for others. Let me speak for myself that when I joined, my goal was to see equity being promoted or required in as many isms as we could possibly tackle. But I understand that race, if you center things on race, you're generally lifting all boats. But maybe some people would say, I'm not sure about that. If you're not thinking about access from a disability standpoint, folks of color with disabilities can't connect. But, I think that, Dolores, I appreciate what you're saying. Maybe in the big mission, we don't lose the general, overall, broad, very big umbrella encompassing inequity, but we're developing this race equity impact analysis, because that's the focus and the centered approach. I'm sorry, guys, it's been a long day of a lot of Zoom meetings, so I'm not talking in a concise way, and I apologize. So
I hear you, Kathy. I'm thinking about the first project we're kind of taking on in this forum with exploring and investigating and researching. And I think I still call myself pretty new to this town, this city, but I do think my perspective and my experiences keep telling me that this town is very much, as our country is very much defined by race and very, very disparate experiences that often come down to race. So even when we talk about families, children, adults with disabilities, even when we talk about the homeless population, you know, walking around in this town, living in any one of those experiences, I think the feedback is vastly different, and the reaction is vastly different depending on the skin in which you walk. But that's been what I've been thinking about ever since we moved here, but also the first step that we're taking to investigate and explore and try to understand how the other commissions function and what their definitions of race are. I think it'd be racial structures and systems. I think it'd be great to put that in there. Like, if we're going to take this on, it's going to be our first big lift with the committee in this form. I think that saying we are playing this role in trying to understand what people mean when they say, when they're taught, when around their perception of equity or race or systemic oppression or systemic racism. If we're really going to take that on and live with it for 3 to 6 months as a commission, then I feel like it should be in there somewhere.
Let me just ask this, and maybe this will clarify for me. So this mission statement is for this project of the commission? Is this what this mission statement is for? Is that what you're saying? Because I thought it was a new mission statement for the commission.
I think it is for the commission. I'm just saying,
okay,
saying that we represent a group that, you know, works in a lot of different fields. We have a lot of different perspectives. And now if this is what we're going to start by doing, then this does feel like our first major project together since the reparations work. And if we believe that this is within our power to do, it'd be cool to have words like inquire, research, identify, something that shows that we're taking this kind of action as a group. That's all I'm saying. Conceivably, it could be something that we continue to do, you know, beyond the scope of that project too.
I guess can somebody articulate for me, just in understanding, what is within our scope of ability? Forget goals for a second. What is in with our scope of ability as far as training and the city staff? I don't have a problem with the wording, only like simply the wording of this. I have a problem with like what we're trying to say and if we can fairly say that with this sentence.
Are you saying for us to actually do the training? Not us to do the training. We have to find a vehicle for having the training.
And so I'm trying to understand what, like in just regular language, forget the wording of the sentence.
Okay.
To what extent can we impact the training of the city, aside from, you know, getting up at city council and guilting and whatever, but I could do that as a citizen, right? So what actual impact, what are we actually trying to form this sentence to say? I'm trying to understand what that is before we look at the sentence, because I don't know that I could verbalize that in just general English if I weren't trying to pretty it up for a mission statement. So if anybody's clear on that, help me, please.
Well, I wanted to set the expectations. You know, the city council recognized that it's got to deal with structural racism, so they made our commission. And so we are going to set expectations about how we're going to move as a city in that process, you know. And so For me, it's about saying this is what we've learned. These are the expectations. We need to recognize that structural racism lives here. So we're gonna recognize it. Now we're gonna learn about it and have some shared language about it. And now we're gonna share our practices and our policies around it. And so I also, as Dolores shared, I didn't think that we're gonna be the ones that were gonna be providing the training. We are setting up the expectations by how the city will both recognize, learn, and act. And yeah, that's.
And the next step to that would be that not only would we go to the city council to say this, but we would ask the city council, because the city council doesn't do it either, but the city manager does. So the expectation is that is a kind of requirement or request or requirement from the city council to the city manager to make sure that that would happen throughout the staff, because that's the way the process in my head works. I don't know if I'm wrong, if I'm thinking of it in the right terms. Melissa, since you're still currently on the council, is that not the way it would work?
No, I think that I agree. That is the way it would work. And I think, Carla, to your point, I think that as a commission, we have been asked or created by the council to be a essentially a study group, a group that gathers information and expertise and comes back and reports to the council, because the council, in the amount of time that it has, does not have the ability to dive deep into this. And that's what we have been tasked to do, and come back and say to the council, here's what we've learned, here's what you must do. And you know, if you're going to honor the fact that you created this commission, then you need to honor what we come back and tell you, what you know, what our learning is and what we believe the city must do. So it's an advocacy role, but it has an extra weight because we've been given the job by the council to do this. So, and that, you know, there is that, yes, we could do this as individual citizens, but as a collective that's been assigned the task, we're coming back and saying, you gave us the job, we did it. Here are our findings, now act.
So could it be something like promote? I'm just sort of summarizing what I've heard people say. Maybe like promote the advancement of equity, racial equity, you know, by, I just wrote it down, by, you know, advising the city or.
Sorry, I'm thinking. I was thinking that that a hypothetical would be that we go to the city council and say, the Equity Empowerment Commission recommends that best practices, if you are committed to equity as a city council goal, these are some things that would naturally flow from that commitment. And one of them is to develop the REI assessment. The other is to make sure that all leadership goes through training. Would be to also support everything that Kimberly Richardson is doing internally to build equity capacity in the language among city staff and commit resources and budget to that.
Yes, that's a key.
So, right, so it would be that kind of recommendation, and we would say these would be your next steps.
Yeah, I like that.
Is empower Kimberly to do the work with city staff internally. It's not our job to oversee Kimberly's work at all, or Shanika, to the extent that Shanika is also involved in doing the internal city equity DEI work, but rather to say that is a best practices, make sure that this is supported and funded.
I mean, and also it goes hand in hand with the city council's reparations work and the alternative response work that's being done. I mean, these are all values that the council has is now acting on. And so now it's also the sense of, okay, this needs to be done internally and by the council and key city staff members too, because they're the one that the council and the key city staff are the ones who are going to be implementing the reparations program, our programs of alternative response, and also making all of these critical decisions throughout the city's organization all the time.
And it's important to make these recommendations without throwing Kimberly Richardson under the bus, without undermining what she's already trying to make happen at the city, without looking over her shoulder all the time about some of this, but rather to put it more directly to the city council. It sounds like we've got a report to the city council coming in the first quarter of 2021. This does help. I'm sorry, go ahead, Dolores.
I'm saying we also have to remind the council of their responsibility for getting some of this training as well, because that's where it starts. See,
God, yes.
I mean, they have got to
Can we all nod our head on that? Can we all nod our head?
And this is not the first time we've had this conversation. And we need to continue to say to them, we're happy to do this work, but you got to do your part as well. And there's got to be some kind of real training for them.
Absolutely, Dolores. I think it's if necessary, it's a name and shame. I mean, it's like they've exactly.
So can we, as part of that, this is an aside, a little distraction, can we suggest to some of all those folks who are going to be doing questionnaires and interviews of all the candidates in these local elections that this becomes part of the conversation? That's another way.
It was a part of a number of the questionnaires the last time, and it should definitely be, I can't imagine that it wouldn't be included even more so this time.
Maybe we could partner with the league to ask them to, if they're doing forums, to really make a big session on that, because,
I will suggest it. I'm in the league.
Right.
I'm in leagues with the league.
Right.
I will make sure.
And I see the thing, Kimberly, that you wrote about an orientation for city council. When I first came on the council in 2005, there was orientation for the city council. I don't know what they do now. Melissa, you remember we got these big books. And
big things, yes.
We had to do it. We did a whole tour of the city, and we had to come back and sit down and discuss. And I mean, a real orientation. But that would be a part of this as well.
Yeah, and they still do that. And Dolores, that's partly in response to the fact that when I joined the council, it was like, oh, well, just wander around and walk into people's offices and talk to them.
Just learn on the job.
Trial by fire.
That's a good idea. Just so you know, you guys are making all these notes, but the orientation is that I could tell you from my only one-time experience so far with a new city council, it is that first month of a new city council that you have the ability to get them all to agree to training and coming in and doing this work. And I think that it'd be something that you all have to recommend for city council to maybe put into their council rules or something to that effect, that they must have a not just a one-night event, but ongoing racial equity or whatever form of equity training throughout the tenure of the council.
And Kimberly, I just want to say to you, what is this, the 81st? Is this the 81st council that's sitting now? Is a different council because I have to say up through that time, I think councils have made commitments of training, and I've never understood I've never seen so many people miss Monday nights. In my whole 12 years, I don't ever remember seeing that many council members miss committee meetings or Monday nights. It's not the same, and I'm just saying it, it's this particular council. And I don't know if it had to do with the training or the orientation or what, but whatever it was real different.
So this is another diversion, but this is a good thing to do now, is can we commit to getting on the agenda of the new city council at their second meeting? The first meeting is the swearing in. Their second meeting, to put this on the radar screen of that new city council, that commitment to this is what it entails. Individually, you should commit to doing race equity training. The city has resources.
Actually, I was going to say this should be on the rules committee because it really should be integrated into the council rules. So I have the dates for the rules committee, so I'll give that date to you so you all can prepare, because that would probably have really where it would be helpful.
And then that would be the first one in June then, right, Kimberly? Because they don't seat until then. So it would be the June rules committee. And you're absolutely right about it should be the rules committee.
Yeah.
So then we would, before then, put together our talking points and have somebody able to deliver these talking points to this new city council at the rules committee. So I'll draft that for us to look at the next meeting. How about that? Points that we would want to cover. I will draft it. I'll see if I can circulate it for everybody to chime in. All right, so back to the mission statement though. Back to the mission statement.
Well, back to the mission statement, I'm fine with it. I'm still saying though, that because we have a broader charge, that it has to, I don't want race out of it, but I wanted to say equity with maybe the focus on race or whatever we can do, but we have to know and I want other people in the community to know that we haven't forgotten that piece. That's all I'm really trying to say.
All right. So Dolores and Kimberly and Alejandra, back to the language I just threw out there about us, and if I don't see it, I don't have it in front of me right now, but it was something about leading with racial equity and addressing other inequities somehow.
Yeah, the Center for Social Inclusion has some marvelous language about, when we achieve racial equity, everybody, everyone has access to a more adjustable, equitable system. I wonder if we just need to add, just a paragraph that says, when those most marginalized, obtain, receive equity, everyone receives, equity.
Yeah.
I mean, we can create that phrase and put it in there. I'd be happy to do that.
Okay. Carla and Dolores, does that
works for me?
Address your concerns? Okay.
I mean, that idea works for me. I feel like having something that's dedicated to race in a country that has been like lopsided, to say the least, in the kindest way possible, when it comes to race, shouldn't invite other groups to be like, what about me? Like, if this group exists to fight for racial equity, they're breast cancer organizations, right? Testicle cancer can't come and be like, why aren't you marching for me? Right? Like, it is okay for this to exist to me in that realm. And other people aren't being left out. This is just not a committee focused on that. Like, I mean, I don't want to show up here and be like, but I'm queer and I'm, disadvantaged for that reason, or I'm discriminated against for that reason, and try to center that when this is supposed to be about race, right? But I like the idea, Alejandra, of sort of rooting it in that so that we're sharing that understanding.
Okay.
But I don't know like what the original promise was. So if the original promise wasn't that, fine. But like, I'm happy to exclude other issues while centering race in the context of this country.
We did probably 2 years ago already have this conversation about addressing all those other inequities, and we made the affirmative decision to lead with racial equity.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm fine. It's okay.
All right. It's good to have the conversation, Dolores. I really appreciate where you're coming from. Absolutely. I still think this is helping us find our lane. Just the conversation is helping us figure out what we're going to be doing over the next 3 or so years. All right. Any other thoughts or comments on this mission statement?
Yeah, and again, what I'd be more than happy to do, and Kimberly, thanks for taking these notes below. I see that, is between now and our January meeting, incorporate people's comments and requests and points of clarity, so that we can, review it at our January meeting and approve it. And if folks want to, this has been a Google document that was created last month. And so if you would like to be a part of that, let me know and I will share the Google document so that we can make the edits in between this session and January. I don't want to delay it. I don't want to rush people and I don't want you all to feel like we're cornering you. Because this is a good exercise, like you said, Jane, but I don't know about you all, but I would like to start 2021 with a mission statement that provides clarity for our work.
Yeah, thank you.
Forward.
I have a question. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I was just the words to consider. I can't remember who, but the words promote and advance were also forwarded by a couple of folks. And I feel like, those seem like appropriate words for our group as we're trying to promote and advance. I like require, but I do think promote and advance be more in our lane.
And just don't get the word dismantle too.
Yep. Yes. Thank you, Kimberly, with the Y.
I have two questions that will inform an idea I have. One, aside from us sort of ratifying this language at the end, is this going to City Council in any way to make sure that they're clear? And to that question, is it an opportunity to sort of write our wish list? Is this an opportunity to be like, well, we think we should be responsible for this, so let's slip that sentence in there? I mean, I want to clarify that first. And then if the case is that we have an opportunity to give this to City Council, have them sort of say, yes, this is what we think you should be doing. Because unless they ratify it in some way, we could be just making up all sorts of dreams and plans. Should there be something in there about integrate sort of the equity committee being a voice, not a vote, but a voice in all major decisions? So if the City Council was having a meeting to discuss X, whatever's before them, again, nobody gets a vote from here because that's not the way our government works. But is there something around how do we get this group and what this group is supposed to be about more integral in the operations of the City Council? And could it be that somebody's there to sort of listen and speak and just constantly be airing the voice, looking at whatever the situation is, whatever the question before the commission, before the equity? Now, we won't get a vote. We're not part of the City Council, but the point is to put that voice in there constantly. And that's just a thought I had.
I think absolutely. I think that was the intent of the first sentence. And if we need to put the word operations in between policies and practices, then that was part of the intent. I don't know what you all think, but those are the expectations. That is what we're expecting of City Council, right? We're setting these high expectations. And if we need to put operations into my already very lengthy first sentence, I don't know what else we would need to do.
Well, if you all remember, what was it, 2 years ago, Jane? Maybe you're better as I get older, these dates and things get out of my head. But we had to go to City Council because during the budget time, if you remember, that one of the aldermen had suggested that they take equity out of their goals.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And so we went to tell them, no, you shouldn't do that, and why. So I think we have that opportunity now as a commission to go anytime we want.
Oh yeah.
That is not systemic. That is us being pissed off and reacting to something, right? And showing up.
Not necessarily. You're going to do that regardless of what the issues come up. If you want to go and express your opinion about different things that they are doing, we still don't have a vote, but we still have the voice. But the stronger it is because it's coming from the commission, not from me as just a citizen.
But I want it to come from the council. Until the council and the city start recognizing us. So the council, what we would like to sort of advance is this idea that all major decisions that are, or major, and how would we define major situations that are before the City Council must be discussed with a member of the the equity council in presence, or like has weighed in some, whatever that looks like, right? It could be weighted. Now that does not equal a vote.
Right.
But it means,
I think sorry, I understand your point, Carla. I think that from a practical standpoint, that would be very difficult to implement. I think that the goal, I would hope, I mean, I do agree that we should think about taking this mission statement back to the council and getting the council to say, yeah, okay, yes, we agree with your mission statement and go forward and do this work. But in terms of, I think the point of what we're trying to do with the mission statement is saying, we want to train all of you, council members, and city staff people, so that we don't have to be there. You all become trained in this, so that as this is happening, as you make decisions, you are listening now with a different framework in your mind. And that you don't need to have a member of our commission there as a watchdog. You all should become your own individual watchdogs on these things, on these issues.
And that's what the development of the racial equity impact analysis would be, is ideally the lens through which they could, on every decision, think, oh, that's right, there's always an equity angle on this. What is the equity angle on this decision about beach tokens? What is the equity angle on this decision about repaving priorities? What is the equity angle about how we deploy snowplows? All of that.
Yeah.
And to get them thinking, it's not just about, I mean, in every decision, the city council makes the calculation about what can we afford, what's the budget. You just want to add to it the additional consideration of equity. Right. But that gets back to what we're talking about, the shared language. What do we mean by equity in development of support for advancement of a racial equity impact tool?
I shared with you all on the sheet what the Center for Equity Inclusion put as, how do you know, and again, it's talking from the racial equity. I think it speaks to what Carla just mentioned. There are 3 points around people, including people of color, are owners, planners, and decision makers in the systems that govern their lives. And I think that's how we have to figure out how to integrate this work, so that the voices of the community, and not just a select few, have some input in decision making. And that has to be a totally different process than how we currently are structured.
Yeah.
So the way that our city council is structured, the meetings and so forth, it really doesn't allow for that collaboration to occur, because a lot of that happens behind the scenes. And I just want to remind people that the city council gives policy direction. It's the staff that does the operation. But what needs to happen is, in the development of policy, we have to start being able to implement some of these activities, so that by the time we get to city council, we can have the city council say, well, who did you include in this decision-making when you create this policy? How are you ensuring that the policy that you all are creating? So they're asking staff questions. They're not sitting there doing that process themselves, because it probably wouldn't work very well. But it's an accountability checklist to staff to say, you did what you're supposed to have done to ensure this policy is equitable. And if it's not, we're not going to review it, or we're not going to approve it. That's where the staff training has to come in place, because they have to learn how to do that work.
Yeah.
However, I think it goes back to Carla's comment earlier, that people have to be a part of the process of creating this. It can't just be siloed between the city council and staff. And so I just saw that, and I thought I would share that with you all.
Yeah, I was looking at that same exact thing, Kimberly, and I had just put it in the chat box as well. The Center for Social Inclusion, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is racial equity as an outcome and a process? Great, thank you so much. So are there any other changes, again, to the mission statement or comments on it, so we can get to work on that and bring a more reflective version for our January meeting? Okay.
Great. Do you have enough direction?
Yes, and if anyone is interested, please let Jane or I know so that we can share this Google document with you so you can see and we can discuss it as we update it. And thank you all so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Alejandra. And Kimberly, I know that you contributed.
Yeah,
I'm really, can I just say, I'm super, like, I'm inside, I'm just so giddy to hear the conversation that we're having tonight, that you all are really having amongst yourselves. I am just really excited that you all have that energy about this work. So thank you.
Alejandra, I can help you with the editing.
That'd be fun. Great. I will add you to the Google document and then I'll send you a quick little email with my contact info.
All right. Okay. Be sure to click on the 2 links. Thank you, Eileen, and thank you, Alejandra, in our chat box. I find that at work, not everybody knows to even look at a chat box. All right, so on to our next agenda item. I think we can move on to the board, committee, and commission project, which came up first at our retreat. Thank you, Max, for putting together the matrix. Do you all have a copy of it, or have you all seen it? It was shared in a document, a link that Max sent. I actually managed to print it, and Max is sharing.
Sorry, I was muted.
Thank you, Max. Will you walk us through?
Kimberly was a great thought partner. We did it all virtually, and hopefully we captured a lot of the things that were talked about. So just to review, here's the Darcy. We've got decision make. Well, actually here, hold on, sorry. Let me start over here. So I was doing my best to remember exactly what was agreed upon with the project and what details we still need to decide upon. So just, there might be things I got wrong, or there might be details that we decided we would do that I've left out. Here is a simple matrix that shows that uses the upcoming 4 meetings as deadlines. So the idea was between this meeting and the January meeting, we decide on the scope of the project, and this was stuff that I was still a little bit unclear about. Is the commission seeking 1 to 3 other commissions and committees, or is each equity empowerment commissioner selecting their own? So we decide on that, agree to that, commit to that, and within the same time period, agree upon the questions that we'll be asking. Just with the design being that we have several of the, a universal pool of questions that we're all pulling from, so that we're able to kind of compare, I don't know if this is the best metaphor, but apples to apples. So we're having the same sort of data, responses to questions that we've all formulated. Then between the next meeting, we would share out, or we'd collect all of the responses. We would create a Google form with the questions for all commissioners to type their respondents. Oh, this is just setup work. This might even be a little bit slow. We might be able to actually do interviews within this time. I don't see why not. Because already we're stretching it out a bit. So this could be here. We input the data. And then at the April 22nd meeting, which again might be too far off, we review what's in there, identify trends and patterns and gaps, knowledge that should be shared back, and then use this to articulate some short-term goals that are, directly in line with our new mission.
Hey Max, just for clarity, for where the date block is in black, is that when that work would be done by?
Done by, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. So we'll come here, we'll show up next time saying, here are the commissions that we're going to work, that we want to gain information from, and here's our pool of questions.
Okay.
Okay.
Would you want to sort that out at our next meeting? So it would be an agenda item at the next meeting, or are we deciding tonight?
I was sort of picturing like we did this work. So tonight we're saying, let's do it. Between this meeting and the next meeting, we do it, and then we show up to present it. And then we're able to go with it the following meeting. So this is like the deliverable date. And I can say to be presented.
So each meeting we have done the work to report out on these items.
Yeah. Okay.
Max, the only thing about the questions, I think that we have to ask the same questions of every commission. I don't think we should have a pool of questions, but we should decide, you know, the number, and they should all be the same questions that we ask of whatever commission.
I'm with that, yeah.
So then we're really comparing apples and apples instead of apples and oranges.
And if we could back up, does this reflect how we understand what this project was coming out of our last meeting?
Right, thanks for asking that, because as I was writing it, I wasn't sure I totally had it all the details.
I guess for me, the only question is, what is the information that we would be seeking from the chairs of the various boards, commissions, and committees that would be useful to us? And if that gets to the questions. That is, what's the purpose? What's the data we're seeking? Yeah. Is it, are you interested in DEI training, or no, has DEI been part of your agenda or your work in the past? How does it come up in the work of the Recreation Board? How does equity come up in the work of the Recreation Board?
Or has it ever come up?
Has it ever?
Can I?
Right.
Can
I don't know. So I'm thinking about what is the mission and purpose of interviewing then the members or chairs of the boards, commissions, and committees. And is that what we envision this project to be?
So I'm wondering if we can use that same report out date that we have to City Council. Do we know what that date is when we're giving them a report of our activity? I don't know if we know.
I was going to go to City Council in February to give them an update to what work we're going to do internally. So maybe that's a good opportunity to at least give them some light to some of this stuff that you all are starting to work on and bringing to the forefront the mission, if that's done and ready to go. But I'm willing to wait until you all are ready so that we can go as a collective versus I'm one meeting, you're another meeting.
I don't think you need to wait necessarily, Kimberly, but what I was thinking is, if we can design our questions that we ask of the boards and commissions to be impactful for the City Council when we say, hey, the best practice is, you know, A, B, and C, as Jane has already articulated. And by the way, you know, on your boards and commissions, we know that, you know, 90% have never considered equity. I'm making stuff up now, but, you know, 100% are interested in equity, you know, in learning how to embed equity in their work. And, you know, 100%, I'm being optimistic, would like to include equity as part of their onboarding education, right? So if we structure the questions that we ask to give us data that when we report to City Council, it supports this promotion and advancement of systemic equity awareness. So if we kind of work backwards a little bit to think, what would the City Council, what would reinforce our message of what we want City Council to be getting behind? Does that make sense? I'm seeing like faces.
Yeah.
I can't see all your faces, but I'm seeing some blank faces. But you know, if we're asking data that then builds the case for our best practice recommendations, I feel like that could make our case to the City Council, or maybe it could make our orientation for the new City Council members strong when we say, hey, by the way, you know, you're getting this orientation and we've got this whole within boards and commissions that we're addressing.
Are you a lawyer?
you guys, so can I ask, can we go to the basic questions? Because I think we're making assumptions people know what equity even means to be able to define what they're doing. Because some committees probably are doing it inadvertently without even knowing it. So it'd be interesting, I think, is a question, if you were contemplating it, is how they define equity or racial equity, or
absolutely,
because maybe that's going to help you all too in how you roll out definitions so that we can use the shared language conversation again, because sometimes we may be on the same page, but there's a number of people who may not even understand that language.
Carla, you just
that's where I was headed to in terms of the questions. But I was thinking, because while you, my mind, my head face probably looked blank, Kathy, because I was thinking there are 8 of us, is that right? Or 7 of us? How many of us commissioners?
4, 5, 6,
if we took 7, if we took 2 each,
8,
you know,
8.
It's 8 of us.
Yeah.
But there are what, 30 something, almost 40 commissions. However, if we chose the ones that have decision making with dollars and or real clout, like zoning and that kind of stuff, and those were the ones that we chose to interview, then we could say to the city council, we have interviewed 16 commissions and ask for this information back on these 4 questions. I'm just saying 4 because it's a good number for me. And this is the kind of feedback we got. So it's the same way, Kim, in what you're saying. And then I just think we choose those 4 questions. We could do that tonight and be done with it. And that could go out so that they could come back to us by our January meeting.
I think that's doable. I think that's doable. We already kind of talked through what were the boards, commissions, and committees that had powerful purse strings, clout, and real decision making, not decision making, but recommendations that actually go to council.
Right.
At our last meeting. And as we design the questions too, I'd like us to think about questions that we'd like them all to apply to the city council. So yeah, boards, commissions, and committees, we can ask them these questions, but I'd like the city council to be asking themselves the same questions.
Right.
Well, and didn't we get the advice too that they should be kind of open-ended questions, like, you know, what is equity, you know, or what's your understanding of equity? Do you, you know, do you,
all right,
how do you incorporate, if you do, you know, equity into the decision making in your process?
Kathy makes an excellent point, which I think is tied to Kim's point before. Asking that open-ended question as opposed to, do you like have a concept of what it is? Or because, long story short, but I just made this marketing thing working with a group of parents who were on the PTA equity committee and asked them to say a few words, and 50% of them gave a wrong, like dead wrong definition of why they accepted and why they want equity. Like they don't understand the concept, even though they were on the committee. And so I think asking the open-ended questions is important, and then let us be the judges if we think that they really have a gauge of what it is. Because most people think it's about equality, and that gets constantly mixed up.
Yeah, that's true.
That is true. I also think if we should consider asking too about what types of tools or training, or, you know, how could they, you know, how would they like to be better supported?
That's good.
That might also speak to the work we're trying to do, and also some backing, you know, that, hey, the other boards want this. So, you know, the city council should prioritize it and also use it.
I really like that, Kimberly, because it gets them thinking affirmatively about their own actions, things that they can do. And maybe Kim Richardson supports some funding of
I was just thinking about that. Like this could help really inform a really good training curriculum to start the work.
Yeah. Okay. So
I
heard
the YMCA just got a lot of money to do training. I'm just.
I just sent a text.
YW, I apologize. That was
YW, yeah.
YW.
The W. I think we're almost close to getting done. The first thing in Max and Kimberly's matrix, which is deciding on the scope of the project, that we would, looks like, identify together, what, 10 to 15, I'm throwing this out there, of our boards, commissions, and committees. And then, do we have the questions pretty well?
We can do them. We can do them right now. It sounds like.
Yes, I would think so.
Yeah.
And didn't we create a pretty good list of the?
Yeah,
I don't have it. I don't have it in front of me. I'm sorry.
And we had the Arts Council, the Police Review Board, Plan Commission, the Mental Health Board, CDGB, Economic Development, Parks and Rec, Affordable Housing. No, I'm reading off my notes.
Oh, yeah, that's the best.
I have a list.
I mean, from the last meeting.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Design and review and zoning. That's what I have.
I think that's our list then.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we could even add a few more if we each took 2, or we don't need to have to take 2, we could take 1, however. But those were the ones that we knew had the most clout. Oh, did I say Plan Commission? Yeah, I did say Plan Commission. Yeah, it's there. So those were the ones that we talked about before.
Did you say Parks and Rec?
Yeah. Arts Council, Police Review, Plan Commission, Mental Health, CDBG, Economic Development, Parks and Rec, Affordable Housing, Design and Review, and Zoning.
So Design and Review is a staff committee?
You told us that before, but we left it. We didn't take it off, but you did say that at the other meeting.
What about, I thought there was some discussion of like, there's a committee on like for small businesses or
economic development.
MWEBE.
Oh so yeah, is that it?
That's not a commission though.
It's a committee.
But it's not a commission.
I think economic development is a good one.
And one of the questions was, now these, what I wrote down, what I heard was, how does equity show up in your agenda or on your agenda? Does it show up? How does it show up?
On your decision making, I think more exactly. That's what.
Okay, I might have written it wrong, but I just have agenda here.
Right.
We can do both. But
I mean, that was just some of the conversation. I mean, that might have even been in our small group. I can't remember if that was just in our small breakout group.
Good. I do think economic development should definitely be one of the committees.
Yeah.
It is. It's there.
Okay.
We have CDBG. Did you include that committee? Okay.
Yes,
Mental Health Board?
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's really
money and power. That's what we're going for.
Yep.
That's right.
Max, I don't know. The Citizen Police Review Commission really doesn't.
Aren't they new?
Policy. They review complaints.
Well, what about the Civil Service Commission?
That might be a good one.
Oh, that would be a very good one. Hiring, yes.
Yeah.
That would be a better one. I think that would be very beneficial.
All right.
Max, you should add racial to racial equity.
Oh, can you go back to the other page, Max?
You're the one designing the Google form, right? I can't tell.
Yes. Yeah.
I appreciate all this productive.
I love it. I can never do it.
Down to business.
Yeah.
Well, we're knocking out all these items on the timeline, so.
Yay!
Oh, nice.
And I mean, if some of these are clunky, if I think board and commission are used interchangeably. If anyone wants to.
Maybe that's a.
I think just do board slash
committee.
Yeah. Jane, do you do a lot of editing in your yeah.
Yeah.
Are any of them commissions?
Commissions and committees. Yeah, it's a difference between commission and committees.
I think we can leave it at board and committee and let them
figure it out.
It applies to the commission if they get it.
Right.
It's close enough. Good wordsmithing, Max.
How does equity work show up in your decision-making process? How does
racial equity?
Good.
Okay.
And then is there a recruitment thing even for the commissions we want to know, like as you bring in new members?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Yes.
Yeah.
What type of orientation?
Oh, very good too.
What criteria?
Yeah.
So
both, like maybe both, but
it could be, how does racial equity appear in your
recruitment process,
recruiting and onboarding of new members?
Does the commission, do these
they don't
commissions
decide.
actually recruit? I thought that you apply and you get recognized.
Well, and that's the way it happens, Kimberly. They do not, the commissions and the committees do not choose their members. You apply, and then based upon what you put on your application, you're assigned.
Yeah, but we're always encouraging people who are on a board or committee, if they know someone else who's interested, to apply. And also, some of our boards and committees at times have required particular knowledge or expertise. And so it might be that, like, transportation and parking, which is now dissolved, had a requirement there be someone who had training or expertise in transportation issues. And so frequently the board member who had that training knew other people in the community to contact about possibly serving.
I see. Isn't that interesting that even our process around that is exclusive to bringing people in who may not have the expertise? And so maybe, I mean, this is something that could be informed later, because this is another thing I was thinking about. This is where we need to think about, how do we educate people enough to where they can sit on boards and commissions and may not have the quote unquote expertise that some may need to have. I mean, there are some barriers to some of these boards and commissions. That is why they're not diverse.
And that was, Leadership Emerson was created for that. One of those very simple reasons is to get people ready for serving on boards and commissions. Yeah. I mean, a lot of planning and thinking went into that years ago to help people do just that.
And that's where we need to kind of go back to, and that's a good point, that maybe that's a partnership we need to revisit to say, are we seeing that formulate into the boards and commissions?
The feeder pattern of like people who are going through Leadership Evanston and then actually, being interested in serving on a board and commission, right?
I don't know if they do, but it was a time when you could graduate and people really did sign up and go on boards and commissions or run for school board or run for alderman or what have you. I don't know how they do it now, but that was just sort of like one of the things that people were expected to do once you went through the training.
I think this also,
sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, it also speaks to the systemic roadblocks we put in the hiring requirements. So, if you need a, 4-year degree, right? Or do you really need a 4-year degree, or do we just put that in? And I was thinking about that transportation committee, a requirement. Have you ever tried to use public transportation, right? Because we can an expert on the committee.
As someone who sat on the committee for a long time, I want to defend it and say there were open positions, but where there was also a recognition over time that we should have somebody who had some, because there are transportation and mobility experts now who understand these things. And so that was always, and since we've had several, we had several of them on the committee, they were extremely helpful in helping us shape our discussions, because they were able to explain some of the new concepts that were coming up and what was possible or not possible.
So with that list that you all created, we
did have plain ordinary citizens too.
So with the list that you all created tonight, what I will do is provide you all with their governing document. That is their ordinance. That is what tells you their membership on who can qualify to be a part of the boards and commissions. And I'd be interested to see, as a question, like how many people even knew like there was those types of qualifiers. Like there's qualifiers even on for this board commission that could mean that That's why we can't fill one of the seats, is because one of those qualifications require a certain background. So trying to identify a person that can meet that background is part of the ordinance. So something to consider, that too is a barrier, is that we very much explicitly state who can sit on a board and commission.
All right, I have a question for you all about this. Max, thank you so much. Oh, look, there's even a banner on this questionnaire. I just clicked on the link. Thank you, Kimberly, for offering to help. We've got the questions. We've identified the 10, 11 boards and committees that we'd like to submit this to. Who's going to be answering the questionnaire? Is it the chair of the board or committee working with the staff liaison? I don't want staff answering it. I'd like somebody from the committee, ideally the chair, answering the questionnaire.
I think we should send it to the chair and ask staff, maybe Kim could ask staff if they would follow up to make sure that the chair responds, or that somebody on the committee responds.
Okay.
Would that work, Kim?
That's fine. I was thinking about giving it to the whole committee and see how many respond to it.
That's what my mind was.
That's
the whole
good
committee?
Too.
Okay, that's even better.
Yeah, and I will give it to
a lot of variation, and somewhere in the middle will be the truth. So
yeah.
All right, that's great.
Didn't we talk about one action item was trying to get boards and committees to have an equity liaison? We talked about that at one of the retreats, I thought. Obviously we can't force it, but you know, putting some pressure on everyone to prioritize it enough that someone on each committee does hold that.
Maybe once we get the information back from the boards or committees and we get a sense of what resources they think would support their incorporation of equity into their work, maybe a suggestion would be, would it be helpful to have somebody?
I think that's the way the conversation went, Max.
You know, as an action step once they've got information. And maybe, maybe Max, I'm envisioning at some point we actually send one of us to each one of those committees and boards to say, thank you so much for doing the survey. Really appreciate it. We've learned a lot. This is what we've observed. And by the way, here are some resources for you.
Yeah.
So will someone craft an email that we can send out so people know why they are, what they're being asked to do and why they're being asked to do and what the outcome or something to that effect we're trying to achieve? So that way, and in a timeline, a date for when you want submissions to be returned by. So that way we can make sure that happens.
I think they should be returned by our next meeting, the January 21st meeting. We would like to have it back by then and keep it with the timeline that Max had in the beginning.
Yeah. Max or Kimberly Walton, would you have time to draft language to give to Kim Richardson for a cover email for the survey link?
Yeah, we can add it. Yeah.
The questionnaire link? Okay.
We can work on it.
I'm here all year, so.
Except for 3 weeks in January.
Yes, I'll be out for the 1st through the 24th.
We'll get to that. Great. All right. So we'll do that. So we've got the.
But Shanika will be here.
Shanika?
Will totally be here.
Great.
She's hiding right now, but she'll be here.
I know she's hiding, but I know she's there.
I am here, guys. I'm hiding because my laptop is giving me trouble trying to log in. So I'm on my phone and I can't keep it to my face. So
right. Never.
That's okay.
I knew you were there.
Our shadow Shanika. Great.
Is it possible to do work like if we say the responses are due like the 15th? Like, can we share the Google Doc with all? Is that a violation of open meetings if we all then can look at the responses between the 15th and our meeting?
So
if Kimberly or Shanika sends them to us and we're not sending it to each other, it's not a violation.
I think it goes directly into the Google form or the
right. The responses go to the Google form, so you will have access to it. It's the communication, so you can't use the chat feature or any other. You can use like the comment feature. That's fine, because that's just comments, but you can't use chat feature. But if you want to send it out, Max, to the group, you're welcome to do it. You just can't, communicate back and forth.
So if the deadline is January 15th for responses to it, we will then, before our January 21st meeting, have the opportunity to look at the Excel doc that it produces or whatever the Google numbers doc is, so that we can take a look, that'll be in the packet. Linked on the agenda would be the responses to the questionnaire, and that'll be on the agenda for our January meeting, is to review and discuss responses, right?
Jane, I was going to say we can even sign up to be responsible to follow up for certain commissions. I don't want to leave that just to staff. Like, I can take on 1 or 2, and then if I see that they're not populating it, I can make a phone call or an email to the liaison to make sure, you know, we're encouraging them to fill it out.
So maybe Shanika could assign us a couple of these with the contact information just to make contact.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Shanika.
Yep.
You're welcome.
I think we should probably send this out sooner rather than later, because I'm hoping that these boards and commissions really respond quickly to us, but I'm concerned that they might not. So let's catch people while they have some downtime, maybe over the holiday, if they do, you know.
So Max and Kimberly Walton, looks as if from the chat, you're gonna massage the language, finalize this questionnaire, provide the link then to Shanika and Kimberly. We'll transmit it to the chairs and members of the boards and committees, assign us a couple of them to follow up, to be the enforcers on responding to the questionnaire. And then we will have the best information we can, at least the best response by January 15th. We'll take a look, we'll discuss it at our January 21st meeting. Boom, boom, boom. More or less. So which takes me back to your matrix, Max and Kimberly Walton, that we don't need to create the Google form with the questions. You've just done that. And then on this, the fourth item in the matrix would be we make connections, set up appointments to interview. What our job really is just to follow up on the survey that's already, the questionnaire that's already been sent. Looks like we won't be doing interviews. It'll happen mostly through the Google form. So we won't need to do interviews. Data already goes into the Google Forms, and we will be then hopping all the way down to select commissioners review data, or we all review data at the January 21st meeting. So you're right, Max, when you said that we could compress the schedule. It turns out we just did it.
Got it all down to 1 month.
And then we can think about what we do with it. And I will then draft for our consideration at the January meeting what might be the outline for a report to the City Council, either to support Kimberly's report to the Council in February or our report to the Council at the Rules Committee in June. Things that we would want to get in front of them. Yeah.
But for the February meeting, Jane, though, we'll be presenting to them the mission statement and hopefully an overview of what we've done with the commissions, right? I mean, so we do have something to do in January. I mean, in February as well.
With the City Council?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
and I would say the second meeting, Kimberly, rather than the first.
Okay.
Because that would give us time.
Okay.
I will do that.
All right.
Or do you think it would be better to do it to the Rules Committee of the Council rather than the Council?
Well, does the Rules Committee meet in February?
If not, it would have to be the March. That's all I'm thinking.
Right.
Okay.
So whatever that date, whichever you prefer, I have no problem with Rules or City Council. I just want to make sure it's timely enough because I don't want it to be too late in the late of winter.
Okay.
I think if we could, I don't know when Rules meets next.
February 1st is when Rules meet.
Good, then we should keep it on February. We should do it on February 1st.
Okay. Got it.
Right when, I mean, you're making my first week back a very tough week, but that's okay. I'm committed.
We'll get all the work done before then.
We'll help you.
Before then.
Okay,
Yeah.
I appreciate that help. I really will need it.
All right. Anything more then? With thanks to Max and Kimberly Walton on.
I just want to be real quick and share with you all a quick draft. I know I'm looking at the time and I want to be respectful of it, but I just want to share with you all just a quick draft of where we're at with the curriculum that we're setting for our staff. So we have identified the staff that will be participating in this program. as we've discussed in past, there's going to be a staff member. Actually, for the most part, every department, except for maybe one because of the two because of the size of the department, is providing at least 2 members of their department, and that includes police, fire, public works, admin services, community development, law. We made sure we had someone from HR part of that as well. So with that being said, we are kind of trying to get this done quickly so I can send an email out before the beginning of the holiday season. As we will begin meeting, so they'll be meeting once a month, the 4th Thursday of each month. It's a 4-hour commitment that they're asked to do. So that's something that they will be provided with, and I spoke to all their departments, department heads, and so we have that commitment. So the first, really the first meeting is about just learning phase, just getting to the kind of things that Kathleen did with you all, just trying to get to the vocabulary, because you will actually be surprised that a number of our staff really do not know the difference between equity and equality. And so just giving the basic vocabulary under everyone's wing is where we want to start. We talk about the institutional versus the individual racisms and so forth. And then talk about what tools we're going to be using to do real organizational change. And so that will be the first meeting. And then we go into the awareness and visioning phases. And the first 6 months is pretty much training. So training them on how to do communications, like how to create meetings. You'll be surprised, our staff aren't trained on these things. How to present, how to do presentations, because that is going to be a part of the interaction that they're going to be required to be doing in the community as well. So after the 6 months is done with their training, that's when they're going to start creating their own pilot projects of looking at what programs or policies that we currently are implementing and how we can take some of what they're learning to start putting an equity lens to that work. And so that will be something that these will be small pilots that they'll be working on in the at that time, either together or individually, depending on what the program or projects are. We have established 2 committee co-chairs who are very strong personalities, but I actually have to say this is probably the most diverse committee I've seen at the city, as we have not just with gender, but with age, with ethnicity. I can never say ethnicity. I can never say that. Yes, I can never get the city out. And with tenure in the organization. We have some people who have been with the organization over 20 years sitting on this committee. We have some committee members who've been with the organization a couple years. So really excited. Everyone who has said yes, we're really excited they were chosen. I was concerned that people would say, no, I'm not interested, but more people who said yes than said no, which was great. And those who are kind of like wait and see. So that's the first committee that's setting up in January. And then Shanika and I are working on finalizing our what we call our diversity and inclusion celebration committee. This is the committee where we're going to be looking at how do we start training our staff about the interpersonal work. So it is about implicit, explicit bias training, talking about microaggressions, looking at how do we celebrate other cultures. So like we did Indigenous Day, and we had someone from Mitchell Museum do a virtual tour and a training that had a number of staff participate. So really trying to remember that our organization is a community as well that is very diverse, religion, of ethnic backgrounds and so forth. So how do we incorporate that so we really can say we are a welcoming organization? So that's a separate committee that we are going to have some cross training at some point with the Ready and this committee. But we decided to keep those groups to not have them all be one group, but have it separate, because this celebration committee really doesn't have to have any skill sets other than they are interested. We're going to train them. The other committee is a little bit more heavy in policy and program and development. So that does require some knowledge in certain areas. So we're looking forward to standing up both of those committees, and we look forward to bringing more details to you all once that is fully fleshed out. That's my report.
Kimberly, thank you so much. Any questions? Changing my view here. That feels like progress.
I want to say that seems like that seems like really exciting. The plan and the way you're structuring it. I also want to just give a shout out to Max and Kimberly for like getting it going. That really felt like we made progress so quickly. So thanks for having that ability to just get it right up in front of us, and thank you, Kimberly, for taking it, you know, to the step.
Kimberly, that sounds awesome. Soon I'm gonna not be able to say anymore that our staff at the city does not have any equity training, so that's exciting. Believe me, I don't care to say that. That's not a fun thing to say. So that's good news. One minor thing about the folks who are doing the celebration, there might be like a 1 hour something on sort of making sure they're culturally reverent. Because celebration can go a little too far into appropriation in the line there. So I agree, they don't need the sort of the extensive training that like policy type, you know, folks need, but I think there's still something there to make sure that we don't like cross that line into appropriation. So, but yeah, great to hear.
No, that's totally, you were just having that conversation today about there's some cross-pollination between both those groups, because I would love to have affinity groups, but want to stand them up the right way so that people don't feel that it's just a group of people coming together just to talk about another group, but really about how do we support and hear so that we can develop real change within the organization.
Wow. This is really, really exciting. Yeah. Really exciting. Yeah.
So
Godspeed.
Oh, 2021.
Here we go.
Anything.
All right, I know you have one more item on the agenda. Thank you for letting me give that quick update.
Thank you very much. So the last item on the agenda is that, remember how we helped with Environmental Justice Evanston work on and refine the Environmental Justice Resolution. Now EJE is looking at doing an Environmental Justice Ordinance, and they were so impressed with and pleased with our assistance to them on development of the resolution that they'd like us to be involved in one way or another on development of the ordinance. Kim's shaking her head. It's a project, it's another project. And the question is this in our lane? Could we spare somebody to serve on a task force to develop an ordinance? Can we just train?
EJE is, please, sorry.
Pardon?
What is EJE? I don't.
An Environmental Justice Evanston, Environmental Justice Evanston. And so we can get you a copy of the resolution. That's right, Carla, you weren't on the commission.
I came on at the very end. I just didn't know the acronym.
Yeah, thank you. As a refresher, we could circulate the resolution. They're wanting our assistance, or at least just kind of touch base with us on various aspects on development of an ordinance. I want to put that in front of you about whether or not you would, yes, Melissa.
Yeah, Jane, I can work with them on that. We'll get the law department involved too. So yeah, so they don't get too far off track. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I think that would save everybody a whole lot of time.
Yeah.
In the end. All right. Great. So I will tell them that yes, we're interested, and they should have some specific proposals for us. They will be working on a public participation policy, it sounds like, to work with the EJE committee. Maybe there's a way for us to chime in on that at some point too.
So who's the EJE committee? I don't know of it.
Environmental Justice Evanston is not a board or commission of the city, obviously. They're working as an adjunct to the Environment Board is what I understand.
So why isn't the Environment Board taking on this work?
I don't know.
If they work under the Environment Board, I thought they worked with.
Are they a subcommittee?
I thought it was. I think.
I just asked because I just want to make sure, like, you all, as part of your thinking, how do you receive people requests for you to come in and do equity work? Because I do think that that's a rabbit hole we fall down, trap into.
Yeah.
And this is why we have to train up other boards and commissions so that the appropriate board and commission is doing this, not you all are tasked with it.
Right.
Thank you, Kim. I'm of the same opinion.
Can I ask, to that point, was the Environmental Board on our list of boards and commissions that we're reaching out to?
Oh, it should be.
We could add them.
Yeah, so that maybe we build capacity within their own organization to work, so they don't need ours.
Yeah.
Help them.
And maybe if the answer equity pops up on their agenda and their work through environmental justice Evanston, we'll have a good sense of what the connection is. All right, so I won't make any commitment for us. We'll see what comes our way. And I'll tell them in the meantime, we've got other work to do that's related. So thank you. So as I look through the list for our agenda for our January meeting, we will be without Kimberly. Kimberly, have a really good 3 weeks off. Be rested, relaxed, and enjoy your time off. Finally, it's been such a year.
I haven't taken a day off in a whole year.
No.
And there you go.
And Kimberly, please don't think about us at all. At all.
No, you're in good, capable hands. I've been training up Shanika for the last 3 weeks. So I think everyone, even the people walking down the street, know I will be gone for 3 weeks. I think I've told everyone. It's like a celebration for my own self. So a workaholic, from one workaholic to others, you know, we all need to rejuvenate. So thank you all again. And this is the best Christmas holiday present I could ask for, is this conversation in this meeting tonight. It's just, I'm just excited and very happy to see us moving forward.
Yeah.
Good. Merry Christmas.
Yeah. I'll be here when you come back, Kimberly.
All right, so back to the agenda for January. We will be in good hands with Shanika. We'll have Paulina Martinez too with us.
Yes, because she's going to come up with an update on the language access policy.
Language access policy. Great. We will be looking at a second draft of the mission statement. Thank you, Alejandra, for that. We will be considering reviewing the data that we'll collect on the boards and committees together and determining our next steps. Thank you for that. There will be reminders in between to check in with your assigned board or committee to follow up on the questionnaire. And we will also be talking about what would be in a draft report supporting Kimberly Richardson in February, the February 1st Rules Committee. That is a report on the board and committee project, our mission statement, and anything else. And then our strategy for getting in front of a new city council, by my reckoning, on June 7th. A new city council rules committee. So thinking ahead to what our message is going to be there and what we need to do in between. Great. All right.
Go team.
Thank you. Anything else for the good of the orders, they say in other municipalities?
Great meeting.
All right.
Great meeting. Great meeting.
Have a wonderful holidays. Please be safe, be well. It just pains me to hear about people in our community still getting so sick with this.
Right.
This 2020, this 2020
and,
plague.
And have a hopeful 2021.
Definitely.
You are all reasons why I have good hope for 2021.
Have a great winter holiday, whatever you celebrate.
We need technical motion to adjourn in a second and an aye.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Farewell.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Aye, thank you.